everybody, and welcome to the Cloud Dialogues, which is a series of insightful discussions with technology leaders in association with Cisco. I'm Shivani Mutana from Your Story, and I will be your host for this session. This is part 2 of the series, and in part 1, we discussed in depth about cloud security. Our topic for part 2 of the series is the best of both worlds, unlocking the power of the hybrid cloud. Now, just to really set the context, at a time when digital first seems to be the mantra for everyone, cloud and its various technology solutions have helped businesses explore new avenues of growth while optimizing costs, improving work efficiency, as well as accelerating innovation. However, the rapid pace of development of cloud technology solutions also means that there are several options to choose from. In this session, we have with us a panel of experts who will deep dive into the benefits of operating on a hybrid cloud platform and how users can really leverage the best of both the public and the private cloud services for growth. With that said, let me quickly introduce our panelists to you. We have with us today Mahesh Vandi Chalil, who is the Senior Vice President, Technology at BookMyShow. We also have with us Neeraj Chauhan, Chief Information Officer and Vice President at PayU India. Next, we have from Cisco, Harsh Vaishnav, who is the Head of Sales, Data Center, Cloud at a Commercial Business, India and SAARC at Cisco. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. Now, let me really start with a basic foundational question on the cloud. And I want to come to you first on that, Harsh, because, you literally sell cloud services to organizations. Now, no two organizations have the same needs for cloud services. So let's really take a step back and look holistically at what defines each type of cloud infrastructure, because you have public cloud, private cloud, multi-cloud, and hybrid cloud, which we're talking about today. So where really does hybrid cloud fit in, and how does it work?
Shivani, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on this panel. I would also like to extend my best wishes to both Mahesh and Neeraj. It's a pleasure to meet you or e-meet you, given the current circumstances. And before I answer your question, I just want to ensure, hope, and pray that everybody at your end are doing healthy, and we come out of this situation sooner than one can imagine. Let me just go straight to your question on hybrid cloud. And I think you set the stage very right when you said it's about the best of every world, right?
A hybrid cloud is nothing but an environment or a computing environment that uses a mix of what is on-premise, or in the technology parlance, which is called a private cloud, and it uses something which is third party, which is generally referred to as public cloud. Now, the way it works is there is a platform or a piece of software commonly known as an orchestration software that basically helps the communication to happen between what's on premise or what's on private cloud and what's off premise onto a third party, which is typically known as a public cloud. This model that works in conjunction together is actually called a hybrid cloud. What it essentially does is it allows enterprises to deploy workloads or applications in an environment that are probably best suited for them, depending on whether it is driven by the need of the application or the workload for let's say compute for that matter, or it is driven by things like cost as well. In a sense, a hybrid cloud is a model that gives a lot of flexibility back to the business. It gives them a lot more options to deploy workloads or applications, and in the process makes the whole experience very seamless.
Sure. So now, since you really, set the context and explain what hybrid cloud is, we are, of course, given to understand and looking at the trends that hybrid cloud really has gained popularity in the recent, 1 to 2 years. So, Neeraj, if you can share with us the key trends that are really behind the increasing popularity of hybrid cloud platforms.
Sure, Shivani. So there are multiple aspects, okay, which are in the system and which gonna be in the system for a long time, let me tell you, okay, because see, hybrid is nothing, okay, it's just a balance between the trust of the customers and in between the service provider. Trust, so trust is a very wide word, right? Some customers have a serious belief, okay, especially let me take an example here, like banking and finance sector, and banking or legal framework of any country works on trust. There is no doubt in it, okay. So if your customers have a belief and they are expert of regulation and compliance, right? And if they have a trust, like few sentiments or few informations should be served with a specific framework, which can only be comes under the preview of hybrid setup, then we should respect that. So this is the main fundamental principle why I said in a starting, hybrid gonna stay for a long time. Okay, and in terms of public and private cloud, it the uses and requirement should be as a adaptation of a specific technology. Okay, not just by a trend. If your technology requirement is like you need to be, or there are specific limitations, either it's on a public setup or a private setup, then decisions should be made. So these are my inputs to start with.
Sure. So you're saying that you should not just go by the trend. It depends on the need of the company per se, depending on whether they want the hybrid cloud and where to put what really, depending on the pros and cons that each cloud infrastructure really gives. So thanks for your input there, Neeraj. Mahesh, from your experience, what are some of the ways in which a hybrid cloud has really allowed you to leverage the best of, both these infrastructure to grow at scale? Because that's essentially the bottom line that we're looking at.
Absolutely, Shivani. First of all, thank you so much for having me, giving an opportunity for BookMyShow to represent as well. Taking a step back, being a guy who has been in this industry around 25 years, what it means is that I have gone through that world of starting with the complete on-prem journey, correct? Having our own data centers, having our own servers, and going through the pain of server provisioning and whatnot, irrespective of what the workload is, correct? Then gone to, many of my years of my career has been with the banking industry, Bank of America, State Street Bank, where irrespective of what public cloud providers are there, there is always going to be like, we are going to be in our own private cloud, which we are going to build. As you know, JP Morgan has the biggest in a private cloud, anybody could have imagined built, right? And it's used by only by one company, correct? Mm-hmm. So coming through that kind of a journey, the bottom line answer to your question is, it's purely driven by the nature of the workload more than anything else, right? And then as I forgot actually, Neeraj said, it is the trust factor of what are you dealing with, what kind of data are you dealing with, how do we deal with that particular data in such a way that how does our customer feel about it, right? So that is the main reason why a banking industry may not actually feeling comfortable to go into an public cloud, and they continue to invest more and more in private cloud. But now if you really look at the trend wise, I don't know whether it is the right answer from my side, but if you really look at the way the startups are increasing, right? Without a doubt, anybody to go to market sooner, to keep to market, without a doubt, it's the cloud is your solution, right? Now, whether it is a private cloud option or whether it is a public cloud option, it's again a very debatable aspect, right? So if I'm just a simple startup just kicking it off, I can just create a simple account in one of the public cloud providers and just get going, right? Now, as you grow, and depending on which stage of the business you are in, that's the time. For example, BookMyShow is a hybrid cloud, right? We have been in one private clouds for many years, and when the right time came, we actually evaluated the public cloud as well. Now we are in the hybrid cloud platform. Again, what will run in the private cloud and what will run in the public cloud is again driven by the nature of the workload. So I'll just discontinue my answer for time being, but its bottom line is it's driven by nature of the workload.
Sure. Thanks, Mahesh. So to really sum up what you've said, the nature of the workload is key. And also, the point of which stage the company is really at in terms of growth is another factor to consider. And thirdly, of course, the sensitivity of the data that you're dealing with. And that really will help you decide where to put what in terms of the workload and how to really bring it all together to fit into this hybrid cloud. So thanks really for that.
Just one sentence to add, that is ultimately people define it as the kind of control you get on your data or the workload, right? That's what defines it, which way to go.
Sure, point taken. Neeraj, we've been speaking about how hybrid cloud has technically become a trend right now because of the scale at which, startups and companies are growing, as Mahesh pointed out. And we've seen PayU India as well growing with increasing scale. And that also comes with, greater costs. So how does a hybrid cloud environment really help PayU optimize costs?
To answer the cost factor, okay, uh, obviously cost is important, but the trust and the confidence of customers is much more important. So as we comes from a very high regulated industry, okay, and the framework, when we design the underlying arrangement, okay, and the components, okay, when I say components, is a computation, storage, network, security, and all these are the components of your underlying design, okay. At that time, when we go through the first principles, right, design by first principle, that time we decide whether this particular component or workload should go to public cloud or what it should stay in the, or you can say on premises or like the private cloud, okay. Important factor, right, I want to raise here is, see, cloud is beautiful, right? It gives you, or it empowers you with a tremendous scale and easiness, so-called easiness, okay. But everything comes by a cost, and if it costs you the trust of your customers, that's the biggest bad cost comparison you can ever imagine about, okay. So yes, cost control is important, cost effectiveness is important, but in terms of serving the kind of customers and the belief of the customer is nothing compared to cost. So that's my submission.
Sure. So you're saying cost efficiency is key, but trust really remains paramount. Harsh, we've listened to both Neeraj and Mahesh, what their perspective is. Both of them have said that they do use the hybrid cloud at the moment. What is Cisco's point of view on the hybrid cloud from a market standpoint? Because, you are a cloud service provider. Do you feel at some level public cloud providers, are faced with some sort of a threat, considering that we're seeing this trend from hybrid now? What is your view?
Let me first start by thanking both Neeraj and Mahesh for giving us a great point of view from countless customer engagements, from partner engagement, as well as engaging with analysts. What I can say for sure is that hybrid cloud is for real. Private cloud or on-prem investments that our customers have made aren't going away anytime soon. And there is no doubt that our customers have made investments into public cloud, even more than they would have ideally done so in a normal conditions, as against the situation that all of us faced with the uncertainty that got presented to us during early March 2020. However, there is a repatriation that I believe that's going to happen. It's bound to happen because of a few fundamental reasons. And I see those overtones in the statements that both Mahesh and Neeraj have made, right? A few reasons that I believe are key to this repatriation is, number one, the cost over a period of 5 to 7 years. I know, I really respect the point of view that Neeraj gave. It is phenomenal, right? At the end of the day, we are all serving customers, and there is nothing beyond the trust and the quality of services that are supposed to be delivered. But when we look at setting up infrastructures, cost does play a big role. And as you look at scaling it over a period of 5 to 7 years, which is typically the period that our customers sweat their assets, the whole arrangement to move everything to the cloud, lock, stock, and barrel, looks to be a little prohibitive, right? The other thing is regulations. I think Mahesh covered it beautifully, and I would not belabor, but regulations is key. The third, which I have seen increasingly coming out in conversations with our customers, is around the latency hindrances. Right? There are certain workloads that need to have a particular amount of latency, and more often than not, having moved to the cloud, they have seen the latency issues coming and becoming an impediment to the overall business. And last but not the least, the security concerns. And I would not even go into an area where I say that this one is better than the other. I'm just saying the overall concern around security is still looming so large on the minds of the customers that also becomes a sort of mental block or an impediment for them to go completely towards a public cloud. Hence, I believe hybrid cloud is here to stay. However, what has happened is these customers of ours who have gone ahead and adopted public cloud, whether it was knee-jerk or whether it was the need of the hour, have experienced certain things, a phenomenon in the public cloud that they really look to replicate when they build their hybrid cloud strategy, right? First and foremost is the element of agility. How do I, automate to the fullest possible extent and ensure that I drive agility much the way it happens in a public cloud environment? I think that's the fundamental thing that our customers want. The other thing that the customers are looking at is how do I extend the same amount of comfort as far as the operations is concerned that exists in the public cloud world to an environment that I run it within my own premises. If I can extend the same day to experience, I think I would have achieved a very big plus point. And last but not the least is the whole transition that we see around the application constructs itself. More and more applications are being re-engineered using platforms and technologies like containers or microservices. And is my infrastructure that I've built over a period of time good enough to run some of these cloud native or cloud native like workloads or not? Is still a question mark. As long as you can cover these three things in a blueprint, I genuinely believe that a customer is more likely to move forward with a more robust hybrid cloud strategy and go and sign the dotted line.
Sure. So you really brought out a lot of aspects, Harsh, there. The need for agility and scale is there, but there's also that, need for compliance and security at the same time. And that's really where you need the seamless work across both public and private to come together on hybrid. So thanks for that, Harsh. And, you pointed out that during the pandemic, people are really also looking at agility, and innovation really is key at this point in time. So Mahesh, I want to bring you in on this because innovation really is a cornerstone for growth for leading startups like yours. I know BookMyShow has been around for more than a decade now, but the pandemic, of course, has thrown everybody off a little bit. So how does the hybrid cloud environment really facilitate innovation and faster go-to-market times and growth in spite of the environment that we are in?
Absolutely, Shivani. And first of all, I want to touch base on one of the points which Harsh mentioned about the decision making between the on-prem cloud versus the public cloud. My previous company where I was doing the ad marketing, right? That's the best example. Because of that additional latency which you incur by the cloud platform, you may not be able to win the bids as you expect, and then you might need to actually go much closer to the bidding aspects to make sure that within 100 milliseconds the whole thing response and whatnot. So that's one of the key points because I experienced the same thing as well. Now, if you really look at BookMyShow, why we are in this hybrid platform, especially why did we move to one of the public cloud platforms as well? The agility of innovation, especially considering we are in this entertainment world, and this pandemic has really taught us how important it is to keep innovating. Especially the way the world is changing, the norm is changing. BookMyShow was known for out of home entertainment, as you know, right? But now, as last 1 year, if you looked at it, we have come up with live entertainment, online live entertainment platform, which saw a very huge user base for us, and then that gave us a lot of motivation to get into the OTT platform. And that made us to innovate much more into the TVOD platform, and we released the TVOD OTT platform in the shortest time frame. So now continuing that innovation further, we have realized that the way we were in that on-prem environment, it is really making us operating at extreme high cost. The factors could have been various things, but it has nothing to do with maybe it was an on-prem cloud, or on-prem infrastructure, but it was really a way off. And if you really look at BookMyShow business, we are in situational driven, or we are a time driven business, right? When a big movie, super hit movie releases, you have high traffic. Just like Disney Hotstar, when I was there, when the IPL final happens, 25 million concurrency happens versus rest of the day 50 lakhs concurrency happens, right? That's a huge difference. Sorry, 50,000 concurrency happens. That's a huge difference, right? And I mean, dedicating infrastructure for that throughout the year, it doesn't make sense. So that's the same way if you look at BookMyShow as well, we have very elastic nature of load happening. And that means we have to be in a place where this allows us to scale on demand as needed. So that is where exactly the public cloud platform, kind of like inspired us to be going in there. But now what happens is there is an ability for all these additional services at our handtips, right? I mean, many of the cloud providers, whether they are public or private cloud providers, they all offers a lot of services out of the box. That automatically speeds up the innovation, right? You always have to just think about the customer pain points and the customer problems to solve. You're not worrying about the infrastructure aspect at all. Within a click of a button, whether it is in a private or whether it is in a public cloud, you have the infra spin up, right? And that is what exactly the mindset immediately shifts. The mindset shifts from months of POC planning and prototype planning to maybe within within few hours or within few days, you have the stuff ready to go to market. And then now on top of it with the A/B testing and kind of deployments, it allows us to go to market sooner and experiment much faster. So this is the biggest trend which we are seeing in BookMyShow as we speak as well. That innovation culture has really increased last few months, especially with this hybrid platform strategy. And it's again depending on the nature of the business you are in, the speed at which the company itself promotes innovation. Innovation doesn't happen just by an employee feels about it. The floor has to cultivate that innovation culture and risk-taking culture. I believe innovation is really backed by the risk factors, depending on what it is. So that's all my points right now. But if there is anything more you want, I'm more than happy to add as well.
Sure, I'll come back to you, Mahesh, on the whole compliance and security angle. But, you raised a very interesting and valid point there in terms of how when companies are innovating and looking at growth, they shouldn't, always be bothered about, is my IT backend fine? Is the infrastructure strong enough? It really is up to the cloud service providers also to make sure that their services and solutions are providing you that sort of a catalyst to go ahead and innovate. So my question to you, Neeraj, sorry, Harsh, if I could come to you first on that. In terms of the deliverables for Cisco to ensure customers to be able to adopt a hybrid cloud confidently, what are the services or solutions that you offer so that companies in this phase of when they have to innovate or grow at a rapid pace, don't have to really keep looking back at whether their IT infrastructure is in place and they can just focus on the business really?
So our vision is very simple. Our vision is actually to deliver a cloud operating model that delivers three things. It delivers automation, it delivers observability, and most importantly, it delivers the cloud native capabilities. Whether you want to run an instance on the edge, you want to run it in the core data center or onto the cloud, right? And if there is one message that I can, pass on to our customers or prospects through this platform, it is this: that the cloud operating model of ours is designed in such a way that it will help them react in real time, be more agile, and most importantly, respond to the needs of the business at cloud speed. I would emphasize the last point: respond to the needs of the business at cloud speed, because that's exactly what we heard Mahesh talking about, right? When situations were tough, when the times were indifferent, there was somebody who came out with a bright idea and said, let's just change the model of the business. And the IT was expected to respond to it in matter of maybe minutes or days or whatever it is, to be able to kind of take that whole thing to the market, right? So the ability to respond to that kind of need of business is what really, really matters. From a deliverables perspective, the deliverables are very, very simple. We want to ensure that we give our customers a full stack multi-tenanted cloud experience that they're so used to with a public cloud provider. Because nobody wants to compromise experience. Everybody thrives on experience. The other thing that we want to do is we want to deliver the computing experience that people are so familiar with today, whether it is to look at bare metal as a service, where you don't need to run anything on, let's say, a virtualized platform or a containerized platform, or look at giving a virtual machine as a service, giving Kubernetes as a service, given that more and more organizations are looking at re-engineered applications. Or for that matter, anytime soon from now, we would start giving function as a service. people want to look at an offering like Lambda from AWS, where it's basically a serverless function. How do we ensure we give you the same experience onto your environment? Is what is our key deliverable as a part of this cloud operating model. The third thing is about the automation capabilities, the hybrid cloud automation capabilities, and an orchestration, which is a given. And now this needs to be seamless across the edge into your core or onto one of the cloud providers that you run with, right? And the fourth thing is about observability. And by observability, I don't mean your ability to look at what's happening into your infrastructure or your application point in time, but go beyond just the visibility element and start looking at the insights that you can get out of it. And based on the insights that you get, what sort of remediations, recommendations, and optimizations can you drive is one key deliverable. And last but not the least, we want to ensure that all of it is delivered as a SaaS platform, because our customers are so used to SaaS now. All of this being done now, it's actually being done by our offering called Intersight. It started as a platform that massively simplified infrastructure operations, irrespective of the global reach, and it has now panned into a fully blown operating model for our customers to go ahead and adopt hybrid cloud confidently.
Sure. So clearly, it's just moved from infrastructure as a service to SaaS, as you pointed out. You want to, keep the focus on software as a service and give all these benefits and add-ons in terms of what the customers can get from you. So thanks, Harsh, for that. And to also bring in, the concept, the really key elements of security as well as compliance in Neeraj, if I can come to you on that first, because, for fintech as well, it's really key, given that security is of utmost importance in today's challenging business landscape. Financial companies like yours, how do you really leverage the hybrid cloud for your cybersecurity as well as compliance requirements?
Sure, Shivani. So I think since starting, I'm highlighting the word trust and how customer trust is important to us. Okay, there must be a reason. That's the basic principle or fundamental in which PayU works. Okay, I usually refer PayU as a financial institute. Okay, yeah, we are in for business, that's for sure, but there is so much you can learn from PayU, the way PayU operates. Okay, irrespective of any country, irrespective of any continent, okay, security and compliance factor and the regulation body is the first highest priority for PayU. Okay, we use cloud for innovation, there is no doubt in it. Okay, the kind of products you see in every month or quarters, okay, it's an example of how innovative culture we are driving with. But regulation, okay, is the prime factor we operates in. There is a saying inside PayU, okay, speed we get from e-commerce and compliance or trust we get from banking sector. Okay, and to achieve the balance, right, hybrid plays a very, very important or crucial role. And that's why so many banks, almost all the banks, not just in India, outside India also, okay, trust us. We have a direct integrations, okay, in which when we say direct integrations, all the traffic which routes from banking infra to our infra, okay, it's not even carry through a public channel. Okay, everything is private. Okay, and for those channels, there is a solid need and requirement of network security firmwares. I'm not gonna name one particular one here. Okay, but you need a specific security blade to perform specific security action upon the traffic, right? And to accommodate the kind of traffic we serve in, okay, we need a very compliant and a powerful devices. Okay, I'm not saying cloud doesn't provide powerful devices, they do. Okay, I respect that, but the communication in between private to private channel is bit of challenge in public cloud. And fourth, to creating a landing zone. Okay, please try to understand the word landing zone. Landing zone is a specific area, okay, where PayU traffic and banks traffic do a handshake and exchange the information for each parties, for our esteemed customers. That is completely on hybrid or like on-premises model. So with this examples, okay, it clearly demonstrates why I was tagging PayU as a financial institute, okay, because we drive the first principles from the various institute to design our solution accordingly, and that help us in a inorganic growth, not just a organic growth of the market. Over to you.
Sure, I think you explained that in so much detail, Neeraj. So thanks really for helping us understand how the hybrid cloud really works for you when it comes to these two key aspects of compliance and security. And coming to you on that, Mahesh, what has been your experience or your how do you really work and leverage the hybrid cloud in terms of the immense amount of sensitive data that BookMyShow handles as well, a lot of personal data that comes onto your website, onto your mobile application. So how do you really meet your compliance requirement by leveraging the power of the hybrid cloud?
Sure, Shivani. So I think it has more than to do with whether it is private cloud or the public cloud, right? I mean, as you said, we have so much PCA compliance and the PIA compliance to be taken care. So that means our objective is the first thing, right? How do we make sure that the data leakage is not happening? The data compliance is taken care. How do we stay on top of it? So it is all about what are the tools and services are we going to be using, and especially security comes at a very high cost, right? So that, I mean, whether in terms of establishing it or whether in terms of if something goes wrong as well, right? So both ways it's extremely very costly. So you have to find the balance. And that's what exactly we will be always doing it without compromising the compliance by any means. So now that as we are dealing with a lot of customers' data, there will be a lot of depending on which country are we operating, we have to comply with the local data policies as well. So that also need to be taken care. I'm not going to cover the details of how we establish it, but all I have to let you know that how do we establish a proper encryption mechanism? How do we establish a proper IP protection? How do we make sure that we have the proper security credentials rotation happening? And how do we make sure that our APIs are not actually getting unprotected at times? And how do we make sure that when the employees are actually leaving, the data is not compromised of whatever the access they have? So basically it covers from infra wise or resources wise or data wise, we have to make sure that at any cost we are protecting them whatever services we have available. Now that, for example, if you're talking about one of the cloud providers, they have a lot of matured security services out of the box. Even whether it is Cisco or any private cloud providers, one of the areas where they all will be investing is how do we make them secure. One of the biggest hindrances for people to get into cloud ever was, we talked about it, security. So any cloud provider, the very first thing they would have been making sure is that they have a best, security services, from the entry point all the way to the where the data is stored, right? So from our perspective, it's extremely important to have the right, mechanisms in place for us, whether our previous on-prem cloud provider or our public cloud provider. We are continuously evaluating, are there any kind of loopholes in how we are managing it, and continuously ensuring that it is getting tightened up, right? Shivani, I will just stop it right there because I don't want to cover in-depth details of how do we do it, but all I want to let you know that we are extremely strict in terms of our customers' data and how do we deal with it and making sure that it is protected by all means.
Sure, Mahesh. So you've given us an understanding of the framework really and what factors need to be considered. Let me then put it on Harsh really to take us through what really, it takes to make those decisions. What are the decisions that need to be taken in terms of the elements that a company needs to look at when they're building an IT landscape? What should customers really look at when they build their hybrid cloud strategy, and how Cisco could help them? So Harsh, over to you on that front.
Sure, thank you. And when you hear the comments that both Neeraj and Mahesh made, the first thing that would come to your mind is the future a little challenging? Is it uncertain? Or what's it going to be like, right? I think the future is challenging, undoubtedly, but it is not uncertain, because we've heard from both our panelists here in terms of how one approaches to a particular problem versus the other. And there is no right or wrong here, right? I mean, every business has its own need, and every IT organization has to respond to that particular need. And I love the way Neeraj, you put it, that within PayU you're supposed to have the agility like a startup or an e-commerce company, and you still have to be regulated like a bank. So I can understand the amount of challenge that you would be going through when you make certain decisions. So it's a little. I mean, I can understand where you're coming from. As far as the infrastructure or as far as the solution or the landscape is concerned, I think this particular divide that exists between what the business needs and what the IT can deliver is precisely the gap that everybody wants to bridge, right? And we've spoken to a lot of our customers to see how can we help them bridge this gap. And we've identified three things. Number one, every single infrastructure element that we have as a part of our portfolio, especially the cloud infrastructure and software group that I represent, is built in such a way that we ensure that you're in a position, if you're in the IT organization, you're in a position to deliver any app at any scale, from any location, and most importantly, in a manner which is deterministic and completely secure. Because we've all heard, both Neeraj as well as through Mahesh, that consistency in terms of performance is key, and at the same time security is so important. So app-centric infrastructure is definitely something that we like to believe that we offer to our customers. We've been doing it for a while, and we will continue to offer that to our customers. That's number one. Number two is the operating model that I spoke about, right? We provide our customers with the operating model that is built on automation, observability, and cloud native capabilities, so that they can go ahead and very confidently adopt the next change. And third is that we at Cisco have always built an infrastructure that is absolutely adaptable, which is based on hardware, which is pivoted by software, because that's the pivoting piece, right? And which eventually helps our customers so that they could scale applications, they could scale workloads all in a manner that offers very high uptimes, that it offers investment protection, and most importantly, is secure. So that's our overall blueprint.
Sure, thanks Harsh for really highlighting the features and the solutions that Cisco really has out there, and what's out there in the market for potential customers and clients to really put into use. Now coming to the concluding part of this discussion, the real takeaway for enterprises and startups that will be viewing this discussion as well. Maybe Mahesh, if I can start with you, any advice for startups and businesses looking to adopt hybrid cloud solutions? Because of course each business is at a different phase of growth. We've spoken about workloads, where to put what, filling in the gaps in terms of cloud compliance, performance enhancing infrastructure, but at what cost really. So taking all of these aspects into consideration, any piece of advice that you would give to startups?
I think no further advice. I mean, I think we have covered pretty good points. It's all about understand what's your nature of the business, understand what you want to do, at what stage are you in, where are you heading, are you having a clear path of execution for an year, 3 years. If you have uncertainty, don't actually invest too much into something. If you are certain about something, then you can make a solid decision based on X versus Y, right? I am a huge fan of PayU metrics analysis. PayU metrics analysis always give you an opportunity to list down all your requirements and conditions and situations, and then you give the weightage of each one of this, right? And then you put all your options, private cloud, public cloud, and X, Y, Z. Then you will get your answer filled out very honestly, right? You should not try to fit your stuff into one simple template or something because of your own personal interest, right? As long as you don't do that, I think you're going to be perfectly fine. Just do the proper analysis and make the decision rather than biasing based on your personal choice, whatever it is. You will not regret it. That's my humble take for any of these folks.
Sure. Neeraj, coming to you in terms of your perspective and advice.
Yeah. To start with, just focus on the outcome, what actually you want to achieve. Initially, don't think about or don't get confused in between hybrid model or multi-cloud or public or private thing. Okay, first go with the first principle. Okay, what's the outcome you are looking for? After that, when you have clarity in your head what exactly we want, pick the use case and use cloud for innovation, right? There are so many services, as Mahesh was also referring, okay, in the well-known public clouds, okay, which can empower you tremendously, right? Another thing is be aware of regulatory pressure. Okay, please don't think it's just a financial institutes problem. Okay, it's not a problem. Okay, don't see regulation as a problem. Okay, it's good for all of us. It's good for human being. The see government, any government or any framework, right? Any regulation, they keep interest of people in mind while drafting these regulations. Okay, so please be aware of the regulation. Don't get pressurized. Okay, with the regulation, try to find a accurate way. Okay, I'm not going to use the word middle path. Okay, because that's not appropriate. Okay, use the correct or appropriate tooling to protect yourself and your customers' trust, because that's the most important part. Whether any bill is coming, like data privacy bill is almost here. Okay, GDPR is there. So these are the basics, right? If whenever we design any solution, whenever we are gonna launch a product, please be aware of the regulation, okay, and the framework, plus data portability. Just have a very thin line, what or the knowledge, what all data is traveling whether it's not a part of regulation also. Okay, it's perfectly fine. Just visibility of your own data, whether gonna help you in a very long way and in a stable way. Thank you.
Sure, Neeraj, nicely put there. You also, of course, brought out the aspect of data portability, and essentially the key takeaway is that don't make a hasty decision, make a well-informed decision as to where you want to put what, which phase you are really in, and don't treat compliance and regulation as any sort of liability, but as a hygiene factor that will serve all of us well in the end. To wrap it up, Harsh, any closing comments from your end as well, because you also have this issue of multi-cloud, and for startups, a real decision on which cloud service provider to go to or to sort of sign up with. So any bit of advice on that front?
The only thing that I would say is that if your care abouts are the ease of use, after having done the due diligence, right? If it's flexibility and agility which is at the top of your mind, and if you care about how are you going to be able to be digitally relevant by being up to speed as far as modern technologies in a hybrid world is concerned, we have the platforms, we have the solution spread. The way we could make this whole journey, be as little or as less resistive as possible is by engaging, our customer experience team, by engaging with some of our partners, and ensure that the journey becomes really smooth for us. But we are there. That's the only thing that I would, kind of leave it as a message to our prospective customers as well.
Sure. Thank you so much for those closing remarks, Harsh. The fact that you are there, and of course, a strong infrastructure cloud service provider, that really is the backbone that a lot of companies are looking for at the end of the day as well, to make sure that business remains a smooth and a seamless process. And thank you so much, Mahesh and Neeraj, for your take and your perspective and expertise really in explaining how the hybrid cloud could really fit into optimizing at so many levels for growing startups and enterprises. So thank you, gentlemen, for your time today. In conclusion, I guess, it would be relevant to say that there is no one size fits all approach to the cloud infrastructure solutions. As we said at the outset, and as Harsh pointed out, digital disruption really has changed everything in today's world. So businesses need to adapt smartly and quickly to current market demands. And it's just a matter of time before all organizations adopt the hybrid cloud approach in some way or the other for their businesses. Thank you so much. Stay safe and stay healthy.